Hello, BookTube. I've got a tag for you today. It's a tag that I was not tagged in. I saw it on Juan's channel, Just Juan Reader, but he did not tag me because he hates me, because I smell. But it's a tag I do every year anyway, so I wouldn't really have needed to be tagged. I've just been dragging my feet because for me it's a bell tolling in the distance. It's the Mid-Year Freakout Tag, a tag that has no set time and can be repeated indefinitely. In fact, I want everyone to start doing the Mid-Year Freakout Tag. I would like to see that from every single BookTube channel in June. Just fascinating for me. But it's a tag that acknowledges the fact that in June we are halfway through the year. And readers, and I'm very much one of them, make plans, make year-long plans, monthly plans, have dreams, have aspirations and TBRs and whatnot. And this is a tag that is meant to sort of think about those things. And it's a big deal for me because well, first of all, I've been having a banner year of reading. I have read, by this point, by the halfway point of 2019, I've read more books than I have in the halfway point of any year in my life. And that has been a steadily going thing in every year. Every year for the last maybe 10 years, 15 years, I have been slowly, incrementally improving on the previous year's totals, the previous year's stats. And I mean to keep going. I mean to keep doing that. So the Mid-Year Freakout Tag is designed, it's just it's a series of about 24 questions designed to help you take stock of your year so far, your reading year so far. So I thought we'd get right to it. And again, I want to stress, I'll stress at the end, I want you all to do this. So question number 1, the best book that you have read so far in 2019. Nothing like starting with a hard one. I naturally want to split this into two, into fiction and nonfiction. I'm sorry, I'm sort of moving my head all around. I'm holding the camera in its present position because I don't have a tripod or anything like that. So I'm holding the camera where it is now in hopes of maybe getting acceptable lighting. And also not bothering my bossy little basset hound. Might as well be, except I've got a bossy little schnauzer now who can get anywhere, including the top of the couch where the camera is currently being held. Whereas my bossy little basset hound couldn't get anywhere without help. So it's simplified things. But the best book of the year, the best book so far in 2019, I've read more books in 2019 at this point than I have in any other year, and that's a lot of books, fiction and nonfiction. So I picked the very tentative current lead for general fiction and general nonfiction. No genre, no specialties. For fiction, it's a bit of a surprise for me. It would be Max Porter's little novel Lanny. He wrote last year. He wrote Grief is a Thing with Feathers that I thought was very interesting, but a little bit critically overrated. You'll always get that with novels that are very short. You'll get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of critics who will hyperventilate about how great it is because they're so happy on one level to have finally finished a novel easily in time for their deadline instead of staying up late or skimming the last 30 chapters. And I liked Grief is the Thing with Feathers, but I didn't love it. And Lanny, I thought, was remarkably more ambitious and more assured. Still not quite sure what I make of it. That's what I don't like about fiction, is that it rattles around inside your head and you're never quite sure where you land on it. Nonfiction is easy, though, and that is Shoshana Zuboff's book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. It came out much earlier in the year. It's a fantastic, fantastic book about what we are giving away, about the way that the mercantile, personal, and social landscape is changing right in front of our faces, and we're not even paying attention. Even when it comes before Congress, even when the issues are raised to the national level with lawmaking, we're still not paying attention. If you're online, and you are, if you're watching this, you have to read The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. Just wade your way through it. It's imperative reading. Then question number 2 is the best sequel that you have read so far. And I have read quite a few of those because I've been reading a lot of science fiction and fantasy, even though I don't get a lot of advanced copies for this channel. I still do my due diligence for reading. And sure enough, my favorite sequel so far, keep in mind this is only halfway, is The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, the second book in that series. That it's epic fantasy, and I love it. So in terms of, everything that a sequel should do, in terms of paying what we call fan service, paying off previous readers of the previous book, and also in terms of standing on its own. I think it did a better job than any sequel I've read so far. But that could change. I want to stress that could change. Prompt number 3 is a new release you haven't yet read yet but want to. The very first one on this list is one that I should have gotten to long since. I read a few chapters at speed, but I need to sit down and read it, especially considering how much it's being praised by a lot of critics whose opinions I value. And that is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. My initial reaction to it was, I confess, negative, because I am already sick of autofiction. It's a literary fad that's only a couple of years old, and I'm already heartily sick of it. I already want it to be over. But that's not fair, and I realize that's not fair. It could still be good, even though it's autofiction. The literary world and this author's elbow grease doesn't know anything about my little idiosyncratic preoccupations. So I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm going to sit down and read the whole thing, but I jotted down a couple of others. Ghost of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare. This is Jem Carstairs' novel, a spin-off in her Shadowhunters books, and I just haven't got it yet. It's the simplest reason in the world. I haven't read it because I haven't got it yet. But I love the Shadowhunter books, so I will definitely read it. And also, and this one is he's a bit of a booktube darling, and I have since learned that he has a legion of loyal fans, and that's Blake Crouch, an author who's, I don't think I've ever read him with any kind of attention. I think his books have just gone in and out. I certainly did not think from anything previous that I might have read, oh, this is an author who must command a devoted following. Nothing like that stuck out to me. And he has a new book called Recursion that I haven't tried yet. So I'm gonna try that and see if maybe if I go in forewarned that this guy is a bit of a phenomenon as far as writers go, maybe I will like it better. It's not anywhere near me, so I can't show you. But the American hardcover, the dust jacket of the American hardcover, is ugly. It's urine yellow, and it has a boring shape on it. And I saw Cam at Wolf Shop Publishing was doing a bunch of mini book reviews and TBR calls on his Instagram. And I saw him hold up the UK version, the non-US version of Recursion, and it's gorgeous. So maybe I will get that, just so that I'm not irritated by the cover the whole time. But those are three new releases that are relatively out now that I haven't got to yet, that I really, really want to. And then prompt number 4 is most anticipated forthcoming releases. And this poses a bit of a problem for me for this channel, because all I read is new books. Pretty much all I read is new books. The occasional backlisted item, but even there, it's usually a new edition of a backlisted item. I almost never go back and just reread old books, except for our read-alongs. Prompt number 4 here is most anticipated forthcoming releases, but prompt number 15 is which books do you need to read before the end of the year? And for me, those are the same thing. That's the same question. So I'm going to skip question number 4 and just give you a long blast of things at the end, because they're the same. There are most anticipated forthcoming new releases. I might have personal little anticipations, things that I'm eager for, but I'm eager to read it all. So let's just move on to prompt number 5, and we'll come back to new releases at the end in a big way. Prompt number 5 is what has been the biggest disappointment in reading so far. And oddly enough, again, fiction is odd because it rattles around in your brain. I've had fiction come from behind and change my mind on it. Right now, it would be Spring by Ali Smith. I loved her first 2 books in this series. Spring, this novel seemed a little lazy. It just seemed a little thin to me. So I'm going to go back to it. I'll go back to it when I get a finished copy. But so far, it would be that. And question number 6 is the biggest surprise of 2019. And it's a pretty big surprise for me. It's Jeanette Winterson. It's her new book, Frankenstein, which I bumped to the head of my list for a quick initial read because I saw on Britta Bowler's channel that she loves this author and can't wait for this book. So I bumped the book ahead, mainly, I think, in the back of my mind because I'm 8 years old and I just wanted to razz her with criticisms of it. But I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was actually kind of assured in a way that I have not noticed in any of Jeanette Winterson's other books. And I told this to a bookish friend of mine here in the United States, and he said, well, she is aging. she's not the annoying 30-year-old that you remember her as. She is getting older, just like everybody else. So maybe that's it. I often don't factor that in. So the biggest surprise, favorable surprise, would be that. And I will just have to see if that stays true when I reread it when I get the finished copy. Prompt number 7 is your favorite debut. This, of course, means fiction debut. And I could not narrow it down. I have a long list of debuts that I've read this year. Quite a few I've really liked. Even when I was narrowing from that list, I still couldn't narrow it down to just one. So I want to give you 2. Miracle Creek by Angie Kim and American Pop by Snowden Wright. Both are just wonderful. Just wonderful. Maybe that both will be the only thing we get from their authors, but either way, both had me compulsively reading and also a little bit in awe of the technical virtuosity, and that never happens with debut, almost never happens with debut novels. Ordinarily, debut novels, I can see the flop sweat and the nervousness and the gimmickry, and I might allow for it, for the rhetorical ability and whatnot and the promise of the future. These 2 books read like they were the 20th book that their authors have read and written, so I love them both. Strongly recommend them both. Question number 8, a holdover from the origins of this tag, is your newest fictional crush. Question number 9 is your newest favorite fictional character, and for me it's a little bit problematic because it's a dirty cop named Dudley Smith from This Storm by from James Elroy. And Dudley Smith should not be my favorite character because usually my favorite characters are heroes, and Dudley Smith is not. He is the scum of the earth. He is in every way, morally, ethically, personally, professionally, physically compromised. But he's the most magnetic character in the book, I think. I was eager to get back to him whenever the narrative shift moved away from him, no matter how loathsome he is. So I'm thinking he counts. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry. I'm not much for crying. When I read books, I tend to save my crying for, tragedies, personal tragedies. But there's one kind of book that's always going to do it, and that is dog books, because dog books almost inevitably end with the dog dying. And those scenes are usually just melodrama to the hilt. And such was the case with the one that I can remember, A Dog Called Beautiful by Rob Kugler, in which he travels across country with his free-spirited dog who is sick the whole time. And then the dog, at the end of the book, there's not 1 but 2 death scenes. there's 2 goodbyes for the dog. So and both of them got me. It was just a haymaker after haymaker. So it's cheap, but I'll admit it. Question number 11 is a book that made you happy. I wish I had a copy here. The only copy that I could find is coming up, but I wanted more props than just my smallpox scars from 1782. But I can still recommend it very strongly. It's by Mo O'Hara, and it's called Romeosaurus and Juliet Rex. And it's the story of Romeo and Juliet with dinosaurs. It was awesome. Let's see here. Question number 12. Favorite book to film adaptations so far this year. I have a few that I want to mention. I think all the ones that I want to mention might be a little bit problematic, as the kids say, because I'm not sure that all of them are out yet. Those of you who are new to the channel, there are about 100 of you who are new. Welcome to the channel. I have an old friend who's worked in Hollywood forever, and through her I know a bunch of other people who work in Hollywood, and I get screeners. And so I'm not always scrupulous about... I never go to movies in theaters anymore. Never. I remember the last time I did. It was a couple of years ago, and I went with my muscular teenagers, and I paid, with a ticket and popcorn, it was $20. Maybe more than that. And the movie, the previews were going, and the here's where the bathroom is and whatnot. And then the movie started. I swear the movie wasn't 2 minutes in before somebody's phone went off, and they took the call in their chair, in the dark, talking on their phone, a conversation. And the conversation was not, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you caught me while I'm at a movie, I'm going to hang up now, but I'll call you when the movie's over." No, it was just, "Hi, yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I talked to her. I don't know, she seemed unclear about what she wants to do on Monday." In the middle of the movie theater. Half a dozen people turned around in their seats. A half a dozen people told the person, "Quiet, shh." And the person just kept going, just kept talking on the phone. So, and I thought, okay, well, I'm never doing this again. So there you go. So, but I do get screeners. And so I'm not always scrupulous about whether or not I'm watching something that is already out in theaters. But I have a couple of things that I want to mention. Two are movies adapted from literary sources, one less so than the other. And one is, I believe, a cable drama of some kind, a multi-part cable drama, but I've seen the whole of it and loved it. We'll start with the cable drama. It was produced by Luke Davies and David Michaud, and it is an adaptation of Catch-22 by Joseph Heller that I thought was quite good, very good. I wouldn't have thought that Catch-22 could be filmed, not for the actual events in the book, but for the sensibility. There's a kind of extremely adult, wry comic sensibility in Catch-22. I myself think that Heller captures that exact same sensibility much better in almost all of his other novels. I think that, as in so many cases, Catch-22 is the book for which he is immortal, is actually one of his weaker efforts. But even so, the kind of humor in Catch-22 simply doesn't happen in Hollywood movies anymore. It just doesn't. And I was under the impression maybe that it didn't happen in cable dramas, but it certainly does in this one, I thought. I mean, there are failures, moments here and there that are failures, but I thought overall the thing was impressive. But as to movies, there are two. One is taken very loosely from a literary source. By literary source, you mean New Yorker cartoons. And that is, there's a new movie. It's directed by Conrad Vernon and Greg Tiernan, and it's The Addams Family. It's an animated Addams Family movie, and I absolutely loved it. It's Charles Addams. Charles Addams did his signature family of freakish creatures. They're all together ooky, and they live in a dilapidated mansion, and they all have their quirks. And the fun about the Addams Family is that they are instantly relatable as an American family, even though they're a total assemblage of freaks. And that, I thought, was captured really well in this new movie. The new movie takes as its partial theme the partial theme of all of the live-action animated Addams Family movies, which are also very good, which is that not only are the Addams Family a normal American family, but they might actually be more normal than the rest of America. And I love that. I think Charles Addams would have loved that too. So that was one of them. The other one is a big thing. I don't know if it's out yet. I don't think it is. I imagine it's going to get a lot of attention when it does come out. It's the big movie adaptation by John Crowley of Donna Tartt's The Goldfinch. And some of the movie I thought was very heavy-handed, unnecessarily heavy-handed. I mean, the book is heavy-handed enough as it is. You should be subtling it up, not hamming it up. But and it stars an android named Ansel Elgort, Barada Nikto. So he's one of these android built beasting lip, add hot water, stir for 15 minutes, and you have a leading teen dreamboat stars. And he was in Baby Driver, and he was also in The Fault in Our Stars, and critics just gave him a pass in both of those. In fact, critics of Baby Driver actually liked him in that movie. I don't know, maybe he has a career as just a plank of wood, an attractive plank of wood. In this movie, I think the director was probably thinking to work against that and maybe, get him to emote or to be jagged or whatever. I don't know that that's the right move with this kid. I really don't. After all, being a very attractive plank of wood on screen has worked for a lot of people that are now considered titans of Hollywood history. If this Ansel Elgort Barada Nikto could easily become such a titan if he maybe played to his strength. I'm not sure that raw emoting is his thing, and he's the star of the movie. But the one thing I wanted to mention, I've got his name here, Oakes Fegley, plays the younger version, the little boy version of the character that Ansel Elgort Barada Nikto plays as an adult in the movie. And what's his name again? Oakes Fegley is amazing. He is amazing. He steals the movie. So I'm wondering if critics will... I don't think The Goldfinch is out yet, and I'm wondering if critics will agree with me when it does. We shall see. Let's see here. Question number 13 is your favorite review that you yourself have written so far. And I've written quite a few reviews so far in 2019. But I don't know that I have... I mean, some of them I was bouncing in my seat when I was writing. There was a takedown of Jared Diamond. There was a review of a new book about Ernest Hemingway that I ended up liking. Uh, there's always a moment. Long at the beginning of the year, I wrote a review of the Library of America, a new volume of John O'Hara stories that I thought came out really well. But favorite review seems to me to imply that your results can vary dramatically from review to review, and I think that would only be true if you had talent. My results are pretty much uniform in my reviews, so I've really enjoyed writing a lot of them. So I don't really have one or two to nominate. I'll put down the ones that I mentioned. I'll link to the ones I mentioned down below. Let's see here. Question number 14 is the most beautiful book that you've acquired so far, and that's my one prop. We've seen it on this channel already. It's from the Met. It's a companion to their exhibit about the Book of Genji, about the tale of Genji. And this is just see, this is the problem with only having one hand. It's lavishly illustrated companion showing Genji's life in literature. Look at that. That's a piece of clothing. Showing Genji's life in literature in lacquerwork boxes and dinnerware and clothing and paintings and masks of all kind. Just gorgeous. I loved reading it. Just loved reading it. Something fell out of it. A review. Right, there was a review of that same exhibit, so I put the review in the book. So that was my most beautiful thing so far. There's one thing other than that I have my eye on. I haven't received it yet. An enormous new book about Leonardo da Vinci that I've only seen glimpses of what it might be like. It could knock that off in the rest of the year. But keep in mind, I want to stress, we're only halfway through the year. I have many, many, many more books to read and receive between now and mid-December. And then the final question here is 15, and that is, which books do you need to read before the end of the year? And that connects us back to the earlier question, because I want to read them all. I know that sounds insane, and I of course don't want to read them all. There are going to be hundreds of thousands of books published between now and the end of the year, even in America alone. But my sort of kind of goal in reading for the last 10 years, 15 years, has been to read a lot of the new releases, all of the major new releases in all of the major genres that interest me. That's a lot. That's a lot of reading to do. And so far, in the last few years, I have managed to just barely do it, just barely hold on. There are misses, there are things I miss, but it's usually, I'm comforted to think the misses are usually because I didn't know about the book until afterwards, and then I bat clean up with those the following year. But my goal is to do that, is to have a good possession of the major new releases in all of the major genres. So in a way, which books do you need to read before year's end? In a way, my answer is really all of them. I do nothing else, and I love it. But I did list some for you, some that are more along the lines of answering the previous prompt for this question, which is which ones are you most keenly anticipating. I'm looking forward to all of them. I am omnivorously hungry for all the stuff that's coming down the pike. But I did list a few that seem extra intriguing to me. The first one is All the Powers of the Earth by Cindy Blumenthal. I've mentioned it on this channel before. He's doing an old-fashioned, old-style, multi-volume biography, in this case of Abraham Lincoln. And All the Powers of the Earth is Lincoln in the Civil War. And that I've enjoyed the previous volumes, but I think this one will probably be my favorite. Then there is, an author named Emma Shelford. You will not have heard of her. I believe she's self-published, and I think she might be electronic book only. But nevertheless, I came across her earlier book, Free Dive, I think last year, and really liked it. I don't know how I did. Maybe it was in some sort of automatic search algorithm or whatever on Amazon, but I downloaded it and loved it. And she has a new book. She has a series called Nautilus Legends, in which her main characters are sort of, they're in a sparks fly kind of quasi-romantic relationship. They both have, or the man in the relationship has superpowers of a gradually revealed origin. And the stories all are aquatic in nature. And the new one is called Caught. I think it's called Caught. The new Nautilus Legends book by Emma Shelford is highly anticipated for me. I want to read that. I think it might be out already. I just haven't got to it yet. That's all. Then the next one is by Andrew Robichaud, and it's called Animal City, and it's a historical study of what's changed in American urban society when people stopped owning pigs and chickens, when they stopped having a cow in the backyard, when those things started coming from factories that were far away from cities. They started coming to you already made and processed in stores. And all of a sudden, the animals that you came into contact with were your domesticated pets, and then horses that drew carts in the streets. And then all of a sudden, horses were gone from the streets. And then the process of distancing is even greater. It sounds really interesting to me. It really does. I've read a couple of other books on that same shift. I'm always up to read another one. Then there's one by James Hawkins, or Hankins. I can't read my own writing here. Isn't that terrible? Called Virtue Politics. Big, fat study of Italian Renaissance politics. That I'm intrigued in that. I can't wait to see it. Then there's a new romance novel, the third book in the Gentleman of Temptation series by Kristen Weiden, called The Temptation of Grace. This one I dipped my toe into. I got an electronic copy from, I think, NetGalley, and started reading it, and I think I still have that electronic copy, but I stopped for one reason or another. That's the thing. Physical printed books, I don't ever stop. It's impossible for me to forget that they're there. Whereas electronic files I can forget, and I sometimes do. So I need to go back and finish. I very much like the opening of it, though. I think I read the first 40 pages and really liked it. And then, oh yes, the next one is science fiction and fantasy. It's The Empress of Forever by Max Gladstone. I think it's the start of a new series for him. Or maybe it's a standalone. But he wrote the Craft series of novels that I just loved. I thought they were fantastic. Just fantastic. And not like any other fantasy novels that I have read. So I thought they were really, really well done. I wish I still had them all. I don't have any of them as far as I know. But his new book is Empress of Forever, and I'm looking forward to that. Then there's Edward Greenstein is doing a new translation of the Book of Job, and he's giving it the full works. So a long introduction, vast critical apparatus, lots of notes. Should be a lot of fun to read. The Book of Job is one of the most interesting books in the Old Testament, and older than all the others. So the idea of reading a new popular edition, I mean, it's going to be scholarly and critical, but it's going to be in stores everywhere, and it'd be so much fun if this caught the popular imagination, like Seamus Heaney's Beowulf did. All of a sudden, you had everybody in the world talking about Beowulf. It'd be so much fun if this happened again for the Book of Job. That would be something. Then the next one is Daniel Stewart's translation of Wolfram Simon's new big fat biography of Metternich. It's a bit specialized. I think the book is closing on 1,000 pages long, and I have not read Simon's original, so this will be my first exposure to it in an English language translation. And once again, as is the case in so many of these instances, these big fat biographies, if I'm reading what's his name again, Daniel Stewart, if I'm reading his translation of the Metternich book when it finally comes out, and I'm getting the feeling that he's in the way, that he's in the room, then I will do my best to get a copy of the original and just dispense with the translation, or rather read the original and then read the translation with my eyes wide open. But either way, we'll see. I haven't even got the advanced copy from it yet. The next one the book is called Battle and Bella. It's by Leandra Ruth Zarnow, and it's a biography, a political biography, but I think it's probably personal as well, of Bella Abzug, who is completely forgotten by today's fourth wave, or is it fifth wave, or is it sixth wave feminists? I have no idea what wave they're on. I know that each wave gets dumber than the last one, and even second wave feminism was not all that aware of its own history. So I'm sure that the current crop of 18-year-old young women on college campuses across America, videotaping themselves for YouTube and Instagram, screaming at the top of their lungs at their college administrators and professors, screaming at them, knowing perfectly well that they will not be expelled, and maybe threatened with legal action for assault and battery. I'm 100% sure that crop of fourth or fifth wave feminist absolute drooling idiots has never heard of Bella Abzug, knows nothing about her at all. Certainly has no idea of the paths that she blazed that allow them to be there and act like brats on campus, on camera. But I can't wait. I don't know that I've ever read a biography of Bella Abzug, and she was an amazing person, So this will be great. I can't wait to read it. Is that the whole list? Oh no, there's one other. The Harp of Kings by Juliet Marillier. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her last name, Marillier. But anyway, she did the Seven Waters books. They're fantasy novels, and she has a new series starting called The Harp of Kings, in which a young woman wants it all. She wants to be a warrior, but she has musical ability as well in this fantasy world where both are highly prized, but completely separate. And I love that. This author's female characters are incredibly well drawn, just incredibly three-dimensional, and it looks like this one is going to have this new series is going to have a fantastic lead character. So I'm on board. I'm absolutely on board. Don't know the dates for any of these things. I'm pretty sure that none of them have come out yet, except maybe for the Emma Shelford. I'll have to check and see. That might be out, in which case I really do need to download it and read it. But those are the books that I need to read before year's end. Those are some of them. There are many, many, many others. There are quite a few books that I need to read before year's end. I don't know about yet. I don't know what they are. So I couldn't tell you about them because I don't know myself. But that's it. That is the Mid-Year Freakout Tag. And once again, I want to. It sounds like the usual tag cop-out at the end about who you're going to tag. You're supposed to tag people specifically, but I actually do want everyone to do this tag. I want to know where you all are in your 2019 reading. Are you having a better reading year than you thought you would? Is reading different for you? Are you trying new things? Have you lopped off your TBR a bunch of stuff that you've wanted to lop off, or is it all still remaining? I want to hear it all. I want to know it all. So it's a perfect kind of tag for me. So if you are watching this and you have a BookTube channel, feel free to make a video. In fact, feel compelled. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.